Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
Man, so good to see beautiful people on a Thursday night. Got a little crazy. Went out in Scottsdale and woke up in Scottsdale. Insane.
That's right. That's the classic joke.
Yes, it's the classic
3 on the Ones
joke.
and Twos.
Yes, it is. James and Cassie, Tom Cheshire here. We love doing this show. It really is such a slice of heaven to do this with you guys. And if I have one complaint is, I wish life didn't hold us down with so many busy things. I wish we could do it more.
Wish you could do it all the time.
Yeah, me too. But some great things.
That's a message to our sponsors.
Yes,
please,
it is. Please, yes,
please put us on salary.
Are you listening, Victoria Beer? So yes, we are in Scottsdale. Shout out to everyone here, and I love when you meet new, beautiful people.
Can we quick say shout out to Saddam Death Cave?
Yes, Saddam Death Cave, who are practicing in there.
The soundtrack for this episode is
SDC.
provided by the Saddam DC.
Which is going to be a really nice juxtapose to what the record we're going to talk about is. But first things first, I want to introduce a very important person to me, a musician, artist, and just a fantastic human, Diane Coll.
Thank you.
And we met,
me.
and I know we've all become fans of each other, which is the best.
Yes.
And we met under insane circumstances because a couple of years ago there were so many unknowns, and we actually thought the world was shutting down. We didn't know when it would get back together.
Yeah.
And we met online through playing live streams, and I find out that you are this incredulous Renaissance woman, therapist, comedian, musician, and you're like, but I haven't played music in a while.
Did you initially
Renaissance
meet
person.
each other through
Renaissance
Kimono
person,
Did you
yes,
initially
that's
meet
right.
each other through Kimono My
Yes.
My House
Yeah.
page?
Yeah, and
This is basically half of Tom's friend circle.
Yes.
has been generated through
Yes,
this
it's insane.
channel.
Right.
But the crazy thing is we started talking, and you said we played some live stream shows together. And what we really tried to do is, which is very much like this show, we wanted it to seem like an organic a show at a club. So maybe for me, from my place, I'm recording. I go, next up, she's backstage in the virtual green room.
Right.
Diane Coll's playing, and then I shut off, and then she'd go on. And we wanted to, it was very cool,
I remember, the first time going live on BLT after you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to follow you.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what?
This
But I did.
This guy is like a puddle on a piano, and then you're like, okay, now it's my turn.
That's a
Here we
great,
go.
yeah. So, but then.
But also what I think is so interesting is like, not only are you a musician and songwriter, singer-songwriter that I heard of through
Therapist and
like
a
Tom
comedian.
being on, but also you also are a really funny you do stand-up comedy too.
I do, yeah.
Which I think is like, I love
Which
it
might
when-
be the most difficult job on the planet. So
I mean, it is.
The
hats
most
off to you,
terrifying
yeah.
thing
But
to do
also,
ever.
I can't even imagine.
Because I've caught those just as much as like your life, which I think is so. That was my first experience with you on Kimono My House was doing
When
the
I did
stand-up
that live on
comedy.
BLT.
Yes, and I mean I thought it was like
It was so cool.
and then to find out that you are a singer-songwriter and a phenomenal one. I'm just like,
thank
wow, what a multi-talented. Like it's always cool to meet like badass chicks that are
Right.
like multi-talented in like the creative arts.
Sort of.
Yeah,
it's,
I'm a good
it's too much.
multitasker.
And the
Too much
thing-
talent in one person, but I think this is our first comedian
Yeah.
Oh, no, the pressure's on.
on
no.
the
So that
on the
better be
show.
funny.
But the really cool thing is then the world unravels, and we're able to get out and do this more. And
The world ravels.
Yeah, yes. And we start being able to see
Kind of,
shows
yeah.
again, and next thing you know, we're doing what we do, what we love, which is being involved with people that we love and talking and doing stuff like this. And Cassie, it's like, I want Diane on. I'm like, man, I want Diane on. So we asked you about this record, and what record is it?
What record
Did
is
you
it?
The
pick?
Pretenders' first album, and in my opinion, the best Pretenders album.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think they've.
there are
she-
so
And
many
I don't think
Haven't been able to
that's
top this.
indisputable. I would say is that
Fantastic
they-
band
it's-
and fantastic voice, and her voice, is just unbelievable.
Well,
yeah, when I first heard her voice, I thought she sounds like Mae West.
Wow. Okay.
know?
So,
Like,
so
they
where
was
so
were
where were you? I don't know if you
Yeah.
want to say what age you were, but
What's
What's
please
the
tell
origin
us about
story of your relationship to Chrissie Hynde?
I love this, and it's true. And I wish this was my original vinyl, but it's not. It is not. Mine got watered down.
Okay, but I have
She's
a
so
comment
cool
about
looking,
that.
you know.
Go ahead.
But this was the first and only album I ever bought. I'd never heard of, I'm going to say Pretenders.
Right.
Never heard their songs, but I was walking in downtown LaGrange, Illinois as a teenager, and this album was in this shop called Swollen Head,
Great.
which was a record shop /
Sounds awesome.
paraphernalia store.
Headshop.
Headshop.
Back in the
Swollen
day,
Head.
right?
No one
It's
even
like
knows.
Starship now. It's like
Kids
kinda
don't
like
even know
Starship.
that head shop was a very
Maybe
popular
less
term back then.
pornography, I would say, probably,
Okay.
but more
Yeah.
more
It was
records
like-
and
It
drugs.
was
Late
more like
70s.
they sold bags and plastic things and stuff.
And
you know.
pipes and
Pipes, yeah.
things
But
that.
that's what
And
Starship
records.
does.
And
but, well,
records,
I
exactly.
go to Starship for that.
But I used to go to head shops in New York, and then now you say it to a kid, you're like, what's a head shop?
Exactly.
They're
That's
like,
I
it
kind of had
sounds
to
really kinky.
explain what it
dispensary.
is.
It
you
can be
know.
really kinky.
So I didn't even know you were from Illinois. This is amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago. Then we moved to the suburbs when I was a teenager, and so walking around, just I was-
Looking for head shops.
So was this
Yeah.
was this
Yeah.
was this around the time that it had first come out? Like was
Yeah.
it okay?
Oh yeah, because I hadn't heard of them. I hadn't heard songs on the radio, and I think it was might have been December
Must have just come
of
out then
'79.
because not very
or
long
January, I
after.
forget.
I'm talking
Yeah, Brass and Pocket.
Brass and Pocket. I'm
Yeah.
looking for
Got
the
very
exact name
big,
because it's
yeah.
called Brass and Pocket, and I can never I'm always just like brass in my pocket.
Right.
But it is
Yeah.
actually in pocket.
Yeah.
But I remember that being.
Oh, it was huge.
It was huge. And it was all over
Yeah.
MTV, and MTV hadn't really been around like that long at the
Right.
time. But I remember that was my
So they'll
first,
play it every 4 hours.
You
Yeah.
probably play it 4 or 5
like
times
pretty
a
much
day.
like they had
Yeah.
they had the system. But I remember
Go
when
Chrissie.
I remember being like younger, like I think I was probably like 9 or 10, and I remember when the video came out, and I was just like just getting into that, realizing what
Yeah.
what womanhood was, like what kind of sexy
Right.
was, and I was just
Right.
like,
Yeah.
she's it.
That's
Like,
Here
you
she's
go.
like- because Brass and Pocket
But in
was,
kind of like a not
huge.
a way that you always saw on
No,
TV
Not at
presented.
Well, I mean, because I was
Right.
younger, so I just kind of saw it as like
Yeah.
this kind of like
Who's this
tough,
sort of
but
like
soft, but
tough,
really
edgy
cool.
girl, woman,
Yeah.
female.
Who just puts it all
That's a
out
really
there.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
So
out
you're
there.
walking around
Yeah.
and you see this, and this is
And I
like
was like,
That-
I must have this album, and it was
because
just like
look
it just.
at how
It was speaking to you.
Yeah.
She's so cool
she
looking.
looks.
you know.
She,
Yeah, I know exactly. And who could pull off red leather?
I mean,
yeah. I think the thing with Chrissie is that, and it just came to me is that she is truly a fearless person.
Yeah.
When you think about
Very true.
anybody who is
Oh yeah.
fearless, the personification of fearless is Chrissie. You
Very true.
always know that
Yeah.
that she is.
Yeah.
I mean, after
I
researching
agree.
and learning more about her and like the things that she's been through, and
Mm-hmm.
like her perspective on things, it's like, yeah, just like such an authentic, and she will even. She's very humble, like when she's like talking about like
But
you
tough.
know this space,
But-
but
Yeah.
so tough.
I mean, American band goes to England and is very involved at the sex shop, but where
Well,
the Sex
not
Pistols
American
were.
band,
You know, but
her.
like, yeah,
She was
the
a
American
member-
singer-songwriter.
By
yeah.
Did she
herself.
play with
Yeah.
the Clash before they were the
Yes.
Clash and the Sex Pistols?
Yes.
Before
She
they
hung
were
out at the
Sex
sex
Pistols?
shop. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, half the pictures,
No.
she's one of the
She was
people.
part of the
there.
Flowers of Romance,
Exactly,
right?
yes.
Wasn't she in the band?
She worked at Saks, the shop that was owned by Malcolm McLaren
Vivian
and Vivian
Westwood,
Westwood.
Vivian
Like she
Westwood, yes.
worked there, and she wrote for NME, and she went to school at Kent State for a few years,
Yeah.
and she was like good friends with someone whose boyfriend was one of the 4 people
That got
that
killed.
yeah.
Okay,
She,
yeah.
It's like-
she was in the circle with all the guys from Devo
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and all the,
So
the
many
Akron
beautiful-
Life, like,
crew.
listening
Yeah.
to all, like reading, I'm like,
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't
But
it?
She
then on
is like
top of
the-
that, then on top
The,
of
It
that,
the,
really
the,
is.
she's Miss Forrest Gump of
yes, she was.
sort of-
She's almost like the zealot
yeah,
to all
she
these
just like
things.
is,
yes.
is always
That's a very good point.
involved
the right
in.
place
She's
at
been
the right
there
time.
at everything. She's been
But
there
then
for everything.
being
Yeah,
tough,
yeah.
but that beautiful voice, but also being a fighter for feminism and veganism and all these other things later are just amazing.
And
you
to
know.
lead
Just
a band
incredible.
in this direction on this album.
And an unconventional band.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
In that
I
sense.
mean,
And
when you think about the music itself.
I don't want to jump too far ahead because it's like I'm kind of like throwing all my cards down, like because it's
Right,
very,
right,
very
right.
exciting.
Yeah.
But like one of the first things, because I had never listened to this start to finish. Obviously, I thought like initially, Brass and Pocket was my favorite because it was so
That was the
it was
hit.
so nostalgic for me.
And you
right?
know, do you know that she did not want that song on the album?
She hated
That's
it. Well,
always
I
the
didn't
case,
know that
right?
she
It's a little
didn't
too
want
slow or
it, but I
something
know
for
her.
that
She just
she
thought it
said
was
that when
cheesy.
she would hear it,
So not, right?
she would. When she would hear it played out places when it became really big, and you heard it everywhere when it became out, that she would just like
Cringe.
like she would run out.
But
yeah,
I think
she
that's
would
a
cringe and run
that's a
out, like-
common thing with bands is that
Mm-hmm.
you second guess yourself on some things that might be like a little
I
bit
could
too
hear that.
soft, a little bit too sentimental,
not,
and you're
not,
like
not the route we were trying to go.
you're
you know?
you're
Yeah.
because I've been in that position too where you have a song and at first you're like, that sounds like Smashing Pumpkins or
You're like,
something,
"Brr,"
but then,
and then-
not thinking of Smashing Pumpkins, but you're like I don't know about this is like a little bit, and so you second guess yourself, but then you keep going.
right.
Like you say, okay,
push through.
I'll humor this,
Right.
and then all of a
And
sudden
that's the big
Yeah.
surprise.
Which she
people
did,
really
yeah.
love it and
Yeah.
respond to it,
And that's one of the beautiful things about music. And,
But I think
it's
it's-
magical.
and you'll be
Also,
singing that song
Partly
when you work at the movie theater.
after reading more about her, and a lot of this is just me deducing because she never comes out and actually just says like I was scared shitless or like
Right.
I didn't really believe in myself as much as I projected myself, but you can catch little glimpses of that,
Oh,
which I
big
so much
time.
respect.
Right.
That it's
Yes.
like I think part of what the problem with like Brass and Pocket, like the lyrics and the way she projects herself in that is just like I'm the shit, and then like I'm the shit, and just like owning it. And then when you really get to know her, it's like
And then you get to Lovers of Today,
like, I mean, but
which
but
to
but,
me is my favorite song on the album.
I mean, I love that one.
Yeah.
But
That's
like,
good, yeah.
But she isn't. She is like, I'm going to project confidence, and I'm going to
Even
be
when I'm not,
fierce.
yeah.
Even when I'm having self-doubt, I'm gonna hold
Yeah.
hold that down and like still just like push forward. And I think that's what's like the most incredible about her.
And-
like
and-
it's just like
And I think too, she's confident enough to show her vulnerable side too.
Right.
Which she does on Lovers
well,
of Today.
I don't know that I don't
you
know if
know?
it's that she's. I mean, it is that she's confident enough. It's just like it's
It's
different.
honest.
It's
It's
a
just
different kind of.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of confidence. It's the confidence to be yourself in spite of maybe questioning whether or not you are
Right.
good enough to say I'm special. Yeah, I'm special.
Right.
You know, it's like, but she's just
Yeah.
like the like maybe she second guessed that.
Right.
But she's like, but she put herself
I think
fucking
Is she
into
gonna,
Totally.
you're gonna karaoke Brass and Pocket.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Is that your
I mean, I think
karaoke
writers,
that-
especially
my
song.
karaoke
That'd be your
song?
karaoke jam.
It might be. It might be. I haven't tried it. I don't. I mean,
I wonder
she's
if that
like-
would be a hard one.
It's gotta be.
I
I
haven't
think
thought
it
of
would
that.
be.
Because she's got such a cool voice.
I mean, she has
Oh, she
such a
does.
cool voice.
There's no.
I think
voice
writers,
like
especially
hers.
songwriters, are constantly, every day, whether they've been doing it for 20 days or 20 years, they're constantly conflicted about how they portray themselves and
Yes.
they deliver. So she's saying that, but she also the whole time is probably second and third guessing. You know,
And then
it's
she's
like,
also
you know,
saying
noticeable,
"fuck
though.
off" on the
Yeah.
first
It's
song.
not-
Like,
and it's
fuck
definitely-
off.
you're
And
absolutely
I love
right.
So much
Yeah.
ownership. Some of the things that she's been through, like all of these, like she'll say, are very autobiographical.
Oh, they are.
Like, oh yeah, and like some of it's like rough. Like hearing about
Yeah.
the story behind Tattoo Love Boys
yeah.
is insane.
I do want to talk about that song, you know, when
Yes.
we
Please
get
do.
to it. But, you know, I just kind of want to, you know, just sort of on what you're talking about. The first time I heard this album, I mean, it was in my bedroom watching
you were
the
a
record
teenager.
spin. A teenage girl. And by the time the album was over, I was like, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to tell someone to
Right.
fuck off. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be sad. And I really think she's so multi-dimensional in that way.
That's like,
Yeah.
she
And to give
knocked it out of the
women
park
that
to,
type
to
of-
make you
Yes.
feel that way.
You can
Yes.
be all of it.
And owning
And this
You
is
just
like
don't
a-
have to be nice.
all the
As like
You know?
being in
And
high
it's
school
okay
at
to
that
be
point.
very, it
you
could
would
be
say.
sexy and rough and be a woman and all those things. You know.
And yeah,
owning all
of
the
it, yeah.
sides,
Yeah.
owning
Yeah.
all the
All
sides
of
of
it,
her,
yeah.
which I think is so.
So brave,
I mean,
isn't it?
so
Right?
brave. I have so much, like, not just respect for her after listening to these songs and how much she was the primary singer-songwriter of these. And not only that,
brought
like
those
one
songs
of the
to the
first
band.
things that I heard,
did, yeah.
like that my ears heard while listening to this start to finish was like the weird timing of things. And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody that
Right.
joined the band, that she
Yeah.
recruited the band, like mentioned the weird timing. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she
Yeah.
had this such a different perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever
that's
seen
how
The
they
Pretenders? Can I
connected. Yes,
ask?
I did.
yeah.
I did.
I've never seen
Oh
it,
my
yeah.
God, I saw them. Oh, I
we go.
believe it was outdoors, and it might have been Grant Park in Chicago.
Okay.
But
Nice.
I will, and it was unfortunately, James Honeyman Scott had passed.
Okay, yeah.
So
Summer
this
had
was
passed.
this was in the
This
early
was
80s.
Learning to Crawl,
Yeah.
It was
the Learning to Crawl tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Which came
Because you
out.
moved to Athens in the mid '90s or early '90s. I
Yes,
guess.
yeah,
Okay, yes.
yeah.
That makes,
so I was in
just trying to
Chicago
make-
the
yeah.
whole phase of this.
During this, yeah.
But I saw Chrissie Hynde with the Learning to Crawl kind of
Beautiful.
incarnation, and she was just incredible.
And then they
I
do
mean,
these songs,
just
and you get arm hairs going up.
throngs
Yeah.
of people, and I was right up front, and it was just like, oh my God, it's just such a strong, powerful, unapologetic woman
Yeah.
who just kicks her band's ass,
Yeah.
which I really
Yeah, she's
like,
the boss. She's the boss.
She's the
Imagine.
boss, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Have
she
you ever
also
seen
seems
her?
so
No, I've
I've
never
never
seen
seen
The
her.
Like, just
Pretenders.
really-
And you know, it's so funny because
Yeah.
we've all.
I remember when they came during that that album that had the Russian design on it. That was like
Oh,
a
yeah,
propaganda.
yeah.
Was it called propaganda? I can't remember.
I-
Anyway,
Red, right? A red cover.
yeah, the red cover. Yeah,
Yeah.
they played like the Roxy,
Okay.
and I remembered that. But then, at the time, you're like, well, this is their kind of like comeback album, and you. There was a time in that
happens.
where there's so many bands you passed up because you were like, it's not the band that blah 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 blah, and you
Right,
like.
but it's still worth it.
but
for
you're
someone.
like,
I
just
mean, I was
go
that
see
I was,
them.
I was that way
Just
with
go see
I was that
them.
way with Blondie, and then a couple of years ago, a friend of mine goes, I got VIP tickets. We're actually gonna you'll be able to meet her and stuff. And I was like, I'm going. And I was like,
Okay.
I was like, yeah. And I was like, man. And I probably had a chance to see him at the Roxy in Atlanta years ago. And I'm like, man, if you get the chance, these people are half of the reasons
You
why
have
we
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
what we do.
Who cares?
And
I'm
they
sorry, you're not going to see
formed-
them in 1979.
Yeah.
Until you build a time machine, go see them now.
Yeah,
They
and stop
formed
and
our
enjoy it.
identity. They formed how we saw the world.
You-
Maybe not completely, but they certainly played a big part, and
know what?
she
Yeah.
certainly did for me.
It's so cool because I'm
know?
I'm a really big fan of you, and we've developed
I'm a big
good
fan of you
a good
too,
brotherhood. We have such a good brotherhood, sisterhood.
Yeah.
Like I'm like I'm like Dee. I'm like, oh, man, I'm so stoked. I'm gonna see my sister Diane tonight, and I'm just such a big fan of you. And then
It is
and then I've even helped work on your last record, and that
Yes.
was an honor.
DJ
but
intro.
But the thing is like it's so cool because. Now I'm thinking of you even in a bigger, broader, different
You
way
probably
as an
didn't
artist.
expect me
Yeah.
to pick this
Yeah,
album,
you know,
right?
I probably would have thought of Carole King or something.
Right.
Which I love
definitely-
Carole King. No, I know, but
Right.
you fall asleep to Carole
Same.
King because
I
you're such a
didn't-
great
we're talking about
singer-songwriter.
I
Tapestry.
didn't
You know what I
Yeah.
mean, though? And
That
it's so
you-
lovely.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. I didn't expect.
Toy.
I hadn't heard this from. I mean, obviously there are singles off. Obviously, Brass in
Yeah.
Pocket. I've heard.
Stop
I
Your
think
Sobbing.
That might have
I've
been the
heard,
first
like,
song
Mystery
that I
Tour.
heard
I've
as
heard
well.
like, but
And then
I
Stop Your
never
Sobbing.
listened to it like really, like and. Holy crap! What an incredible pick, and I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you picked it so that I could dive into it like this.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
definitely not because okay, so Precious, like right off the bat, it's
Oh.
like I'm thinking punk, like that's like
Oh,
yeah.
way
For
more
sure.
Sure.
Oh, big
like
time.
that I would have.
Oh God, yeah.
It was along the lines of a band like Blondie or something.
mean,
and
for
then you got to
sure.
remember, these guys, a couple of songs, I guess Nick Lowe was involved. But
Yeah.
Nick Lowe was so
Just
involved.
like one
song.
I
but
have
he
the
was
best-
but he was so involved in. You got to understand. That label with the Pogues and the Damn Stiff Records, okay, I know they're on Sire, but
Yeah.
Nick Lowe was integral. He was involved with putting all these bands together. I mean,
And
it's
you
unbelievable.
because
I mean,
No.
he brought James Honeyman Scott in.
That's right.
He
That's
was
what
the
I'm saying.
lure.
But one of
he
the
facilitated it.
But
the
then he
funniest
said, "This
thing
band's
that-
going nowhere. I'm
That's-
out of here."
Yes,
right?
exactly right. And I read that, and I said that to Greg. I was
Nick
just
Lowe.
like, and I read that quote to to Greg, and we both just started laughing.
I know, isn't that?
Because it was just like I really respect Nick Lowe, but it was just like
You get it wrong sometimes.
You can't be perfect forever.
for sure.
And
Because
it's so
just-
funny because he produced
Factory
Stop Your
Records passed on to
Sobbing.
Smiths.
Right.
And
Exactly,
he might have
yes.
heard the other
Which is an
songs and went,
incredible
I'm out of
Yeah,
here.
sure.
But the thing is my point being though is though
It is
that
an
whole
incredible
scene,
cover.
that whole scene though, like Nick Lowe really might have put that band together, and then he was like, I got something else I want to work on.
But no,
You
I
know,
just
like,
said-
I don't
They
think
weren't-
he
they were going
100%
nowhere.
had to. I don't think he 100% put them together like as much as like Malcolm McLaren put together like the Sex Pistols or whatever. Like I'm
Sure.
sure he had some
Sure.
things maybe connections, but he did that. He produced their first single, which was Stop Your Sobbing.
Yeah.
And
Great song.
and then he did say that he wasn't going to do any more with them because they weren't going anywhere. But it's like, but you think about where she really excels in her songwriting really is the stepping outside of the box and with
Right.
the weird timing and stuff.
I agree.
And Nick Lowe, like I think he's like really
He's
he
very
does like
compact
the
and
pop,
neat.
like he does a lot more.
Yeah.
Of the, it's not pop in like the cheesy tacky way, but
No,
I mean, but
big
he
fan of
definitely-
Nick Lowe. I mean, totally. It's just
Yeah.
it was two different.
It
Like he's
was-
like, that's not my wheelhouse. Someone else
but
can
not
do it.
only
you know?
that, like it was a bad example because it's like it's an amazing cover, but it's not a song that she wrote where she really
Right.
the weird timing
Well,
and
that's
her
the
little
Kings cover.
idiosyncrasies is really right. It's a Kings cover,
Yeah.
so she's sticking with the cover but doing their own thing, but it's not highlighting their real specialty, which is her
Exactly.
weird timing and how the other members of the band play off of that
Right.
and
You
really make it
also-
something
also,
different,
you got-
dynamic.
You got to
Like,
remember that this is something James probably would say. It's like it's a time not a lot of people would invest in a lot of women musicians yet.
Right.
I mean, it really
You know what I'm
was.
saying?
She was
Think about
really
that.
ahead
I
of
mean,
her
I'm
time.
trying to think the way
Especially
James,
for-
because James always says the best stuff.
Well, for Chrissie to come and sort of round up and
Yeah.
bring all these songs and not just be the front person, but really be the songwriter,
Powerhouse,
be
yeah.
the sort of singer-songwriter originator
Yeah.
nucleus of these songs that the other band members play off of and make into the full package. I think it's amazing, and I think this is so. These are the comments I have to make about the Pretenders album. Is
Yes.
that a lot like the Faces, a nod is to a blind
Then,
horse. I'll
yeah.
never get the title
So,
right.
something to wink. It's a
Anna
great
Kramer's
Great record.
episode.
Not as good as a wink.
Not as good as a
Not
wink
as
to a
good
blind
as a
horse.
wink.
A nod
There
is
you go.
as good as a wink,
Okay,
which
okay.
is true.
So I look at this as being, and I know all records are expensive now, but this is an insane value of a
Yes.
of a record you could buy for $5.
Because it's a
that
George Ella
is-
record, yes.
That it's so underrated and
Sure,
and such
I
a
agree.
amazing
It's-
universal record.
It's underrated, but not
It's a
really.
lot better
but not-
than-
I think it's like.
I think
don't-
people think that this is brass and pocket, a bunch of throwaway songs.
And it's
It is
not.
a greatest hits album
It is
of the
incredible.
Pretenders.
For
When
an
you think
album,
about
yeah.
it,
It's such a rough
But it
and
also- but it
ready
really is,
mix
like-
of songs, you know?
And it's
Every
included
song
in
is a
so many
complete
lists
banger,
Of like, to
and-
think that it's like their first record, and it really is.
well, it's like the
on,
Cars'
like-
first record. It's the
It's
same idea
insane.
where you're
It's
just
insane.
Yeah.
I love the
Yeah.
Cars' first record.
Like
That's a
that
great
you
record.
could
Oh,
put out
yeah.
something
Talk
like
about that,
this.
sorry.
That except for like there are a few parts where it's like kind of dated. And actually, like one of them is in my favorite song. It's like it kind of dates it, but outside of like those, it really is like kind of
It's
timeless.
so cool. Yeah,
it's timeless
Yeah.
and
It is time, and it's so current today too.
I mean, there's just a
you
it-
know,
we were
right?
just listening to it while we were setting up
Yeah,
because
we
they
were
have a
listening to
record
it.
player over in the kitchen, and it's an instantly entertaining album.
Yeah.
And I think this is always a record that I will bring in the crate to DJ with, and just
Nice.
at Elmira I played. I always play different songs off of this because every song is amazing. I think I played the phone call.
Yeah.
I like the
Love
phone
it.
call a lot,
Love it.
but
This is a mercy
You know what's
mission.
interesting
but I
about
love the second. Well, what I also
second-
love is
second
that
half is like
the first half and the second half are
very different.
are very different. That
Yeah.
that it's a very almost like a very quiet or a very more it's a more aggro first side. And
Yeah.
it's a
It's
more
like this
It
kind
comes
of
out
like-
swinging.
It's like she
It comes out
punches you
swinging.
right in the
and
face
It
right in
comes
the
out
beginning,
swinging,
you
then you
know?
go into therapy. Then you go into therapy.
But I also love mystery achievement. I mean,
It goes out with the band.
Okay,
Yeah, it
that's
goes out
the
with the
one I was
band.
talking about. I think that Mystery Achievement is probably my favorite. I mean, and it's like I love. Okay, don't get me wrong. Like I love. Don't get me wrong. I love all of them. But like, so even like my lower points like are still incredible songs. So it's like Mystery Achievement. I think there's something about that like
get back in there.
the you know like the the
Yeah.
punchiness like that
Yeah.
just really like gets me, and I think it's like I don't know,
You
like
can't
I
sit
love
still
it.
to it.
What's your mystery achievement
Yeah, what
take?
is it?
What's your hot take on
It-
mystery
it's kind
achievement?
of the whole work of James Honeyman Scott, who we lost him way too soon.
Yeah.
Every guitar
Remind me
solo,
what happened to him?
He overdosed. The solos are scorching. He does solos
Yeah.
that sound like they're from the 60s, solos that sounded current at the time.
Right.
So the way I hear him playing was very like timeless.
That's very cool.
Because he would capture like cool 60s riffs
Yeah.
and stick them
Yes.
in there.
You know what's-
and then he'd do jingle jangle stuff
When you
and
think
stick
about
them
when
in
you
there.
think about
It's
bands,
sort of it's sort of the perfect band. It's kind of a
Yeah.
shame that the band wasn't, you sort of had the perfect combination, and it seemed like as new members brought in, they kind of lost a little bit of that.
Well,
Oh, so sad,
so when
they
you think about
did.
bands around that time, and you realize like, Athens, the guitar player of the B-52s, who was so talented, and then when he was gone, it's like you're
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness,
Ricky.
you
Right.
realize their person was vital, like to this whole
Right.
sound.
And I
Unbelievable.
really think James Honeyman Scott was vital because he had such a variety. He just
And
had
they-
such a tool,
and
like
they'll talk
just like
about-
a toolbox to pull
They'll
from.
talk about how he
Yeah.
like played off of her timing,
Yeah.
her weird
yeah.
timing, and I know that Pete Farndon and Martin Chambers like said that they would go in before, like for recording, like they would go in before they recorded, before anybody else got there, and go over her like weird timing because like apparently she didn't count like like
Like a
regular
normal-
musicians.
She's
She's a very
will.
organic player.
It's
Yeah,
a-
but
it's
they,
a
so
feel.
they
It's
would
feel.
It's very
Very
they would
expressive
talk to
and
each other
just
in like
room
what
play.
they called baby talk,
Yeah.
which was just like ba da ba ba. But like,
Accent.
rather than like the counting. So
This
that
one's
they
in
could
7/4. Sorry,
Yeah.
here you
actually-
go.
But
Yeah.
I love that because it
That
just
is
it
cool.
tells me that like there was this cohesiveness with the musicians that were found that joined, and like her writing style, which was like musically so different than anything else that was going on, and that they worked around, like they found out there was it was a good mesh.
Oh, it's
like,
amazing.
It was just like
it's like when you really just listen to the music. It's like,
Yeah,
whoa,
like
there's
the way-
so much
like,
going on.
the way they would talk about like how Martin Chambers, who is the drummer and I guess the only other living
Yeah.
member that was about how he intentionally would like hit notes in a certain point different than the way she was hitting them to kind of like there's
Yeah.
a whole weird
It was an understanding.
Chem-
Like they
yes, but
understood
it was like this-
If you're going to try to do like
Yeah.
this regular math and poetry thing, it's not going to work. We need to feel. We need to learn how to feel where you're feeling.
but it's so different than anything else.
Yeah, for
Isn't
sure.
it? I
for
mean,
sure.
truly, it's so cohesive. You think it would be chaotic, but it's not.
No, they
No,
were
it sounds
like,
so- it's
they,
like
they're
smooth.
all
It's
playing
really
together
smooth.
as one unit.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it
It's amazing.
a shame that you don't have that band
Yeah.
in that configuration for any longer,
Oh, I was crushed.
for any longer than it was. I mean, I do think that
yeah.
as the Pretenders continued on and they kind of lost that angular kind
It
of
certainly still had hits, for
feel.
sure, but
Like
yeah.
they still had amazing songs. She's an amazing songwriter
She's a very good
and
songwriter, but yeah.
everything. But I feel like they sort of smoothed out a little too much. Where, I mean, they became a great
'Cause
pop
you
group.
love that rough-
but,
you love the
but
weird
this
rough
first
parts.
album is
Yeah,
is
and
the
I really
way
think
to go.
that
yeah.
broke her because when you see that video for Back in the Chain Gang for
Yep.
the next album, you can just see she was broken.
Oh, it's a great song.
Yeah, it was about her losing her too close, and she was dating Pete. The
Yeah,
bass
that's.
player.
I
So she
kind of
also lost her boyfriend.
thought that. I was
Yeah.
wondering about that. Yeah.
But you can just tell how broken she was, and on that, and yeah, learning to crawl was just way too slick. And it's
Yeah,
good.
it's-
It's
it's-
good. I love the album. It's slick.
You have the decisions that are made.
You almost
It's-
wish they would have. I bet you there are amazing demos of that out there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Of
want.
them writing.
Wouldn't that be
Yeah, I
great?
Just
want
like
their.
4 tracks in someone's living room.
Yeah, I want
unbelievable.
those.
You know?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear their Violent Femmes story?
No.
Oh,
Because they discovered the Violent
they
Femmes.
did because the Violent Femmes
Love the
opened
Violent,
for
love
them.
the Violent Femmes.
The Violent
Hey,
Femmes
what's going
opened
on?
for
How you
them
doing?
at the Oriental Theater in Milwaukee.
But you
And
know the
so-
circumstances of that.
No, I don't. I
Do
don't. I
tell.
just know that aspect.
Okay, so the Violent Femmes, and I know this because of the Life of the Record podcast, which is an
I
amazing
love
podcast.
that podcast, yes.
The Violent Femmes episode is amazing, but they talk about how nobody in Milwaukee would give them the time of day because there's these 3 weirdos playing acoustic guitars.
An acoustic punk band, basically, yes,
Acoustic
amazing.
punk band that nobody could understand, and this weirdo frontman. And so they would play outside of that theater,
Oriental
or they would
Theater.
they would just
Bust.
bust
They'd bust down the
basically
streets,
around
yeah.
because they were
and
like,
also to this day, it's straight up like an acoustic bass, acoustic guitar, and a snare. So
I'm originally
standing up,
from
so-
Milwaukee, so
Oh,
it's like I
okay.
go up there and visit family, and actually my aunt like she does this stuff where she volunteers, so I'm sure she's volunteered at the Oriental Theater. She probably has like tons
Yeah.
of stories
Yeah.
about like, all
well, their whole theory was that the Pretenders were playing, it was sold out.
I love this.
So and I think it was in the snow even. And so they're like, we're going to set up while everybody's lined up, and then people have nowhere to go.
Smart.
Because they're stuck in line
They're
and they get
forced
to
to
hear
listen
us
to
the
us,
whole
too.
time.
Oh, they're so
And
good.
so they're playing their set, which is basically the first album.
Yeah.
Right,
You know.
right.
Wow.
And Chrissie Hynde comes out, and it's like, oh my God, and it goes gets the band, and they come out, and they're just laughing their asses off, and they think it's the best thing, and they're like, you guys are amazing. Come in and open for us tonight.
I did not know
And
that.
brought them
What
in.
I heard was
And that was,
Yes.
and so they came.
That is
Their
amazing.
first real show that was not at like a party or something
Yeah, at someone's house.
was opening for the Pretenders in a sold out theater with like 4,000 people.
all I heard. I only
That's
heard like
amazing.
I only heard that they helped
It
discover
legitimized them.
that they discovered
They were
that
involved,
they
too,
that,
yeah.
no that they pretty much discovered the Violent Femmes because they opened for them. But I didn't hear the whole busking and all
So-
that. That's incredible.
Well, you know that
Testament
she's
to the
awesome.
band.
She's a loving
Exactly,
person. She's
yeah.
like, yeah.
She just
More-
she
Well,
has
they
a
were
lot
listening
of-
to those songs, and they were just like, these are the funniest songs,
Are we gonna,
and they're amazing.
Are we going to tell the story that we have to tell because I know you saw it like on
What did
like
I
our
see?
friend Kira, who was episode 13 guest, like
Shout out to Kira.
she posted she posted recently this story on Spin magazine where like Kim Deal from the Breeders was talking about the first time that, like the only time I guess maybe, that she met, and I don't know exactly when this took place, that she met Chrissie Hynde, but it's like, Chrissie Hynde is like,
It was like early in the Pixies, like
was it
before
early
they
in the
were. I
Pixies?
think they
But
were
it's like,
Breeders
known.
were-
Chrissie
bands,
Hynde
yeah.
has gotta
Yeah,
be,
I think it was in the
like,
early
I think
Pixies.
she's like most girls that are into like music, I think she's like an idol.
Sure.
But like,
And without
especially
doubt.
if you're like a musician. So she goes to see Urge Overkill, right?
Yeah.
And I guess
Because it's because of the drummer dying. That's what this story came up with.
and then
Chicago band.
and then she
Yeah,
goes,
definitely.
she goes
Chicago's
backstage,
finest.
I remember them.
and she meets Chrissie Hynde.
Wow.
And so she's like so excited to meet Chrissie Hynde. She's introduced to Chrissie Hynde, and Chrissie Hynde goes, "You're not a chick, you're a dude." And I guess she grabbed Kim Deal in the boob, and then
She didn't realize that Kim Deal was a female.
Oh.
Like
then
truly,
Kim
like
Deal,
was
got kind of.
confused.
No, then I guess that Chrissie Hynde got kind of embarrassed, and then she was like, I guess she took Kim Deal's hand, and like this was in like Spin magazine, I guess it was something about like it was some, and then so Chrissie Hynde grabs Kim Deal's hand and puts it on her boob.
Okay,
and
fair's
Kim
fair.
Deal goes right, and Kim Deal goes, so it was like a boob off, and then she said, and so like I felt really awkward, so I just got up and walked away. And she's like, in retrospect, I'm kind of happy that she turned out to be an asshole. But I do have to like totally. She did say that she was drunk, and I have to say, I do not think that she's a bit of an asshole. I think she was just drunk because she
Yeah,
seems like pretty much one of the coolest,
seems
most
like-
down to
seems
earth
like a
people.
tough
Seems like a
but
pretty
very
cool thing to do.
But
well,
I love that story.
sure.
I think like nowadays, like now in
I never heard
today's
that story.
climate,
Me
you
either.
wouldn't,
The boob
you
off,
wouldn't
yeah.
be like,
You would-
like you
yeah.
probably would second guess before you said that.
Well, these
before
days you got to be very careful about everything
I mean,
you say.
yeah,
Just
like be
understand
like
that.
Sure.
respectful to people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like during the time, it's just like, yeah, it was just some kind of weird faux pas.
Well, the cool
And it
thing
was
is that
kinda
Kim
like
Deal wasn't
boob
offended
grabbing.
that much, and that she went off
Yeah.
to do
Well,
great
Kim
things.
Deal
Yeah.
also sounds like a complete badass. So it's like two
She is.
badasses.
I listened to
in some
Breeders'
way.
first album yesterday.
They're having-
and I-
they're having a
of the
boob off.
Pixies,
Yeah.
yeah.
And a boob off, and they
Yeah.
just had
Sure.
this boob off, which
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm still gonna think is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, no, listen, and well, that's what's great about you, Cassie. You find the good in most things. Yeah.
So let's talk about Tattooed Love Boys, because
Oh
I
my
think
God.
Please.
that's the most controversial song
That
you
is,
know
it's-
that's
still today.
very,
So it's
very.
it's a biography.
Yeah,
It is, and it's really sad. Like it's kind of.
Well, it's sort of, I mean, you know, the story is she was hanging out, went to a party, and she wouldn't give a biker gang her Quaaludes. So the biker gang decided to
Take her to an
pick
abandoned
her up.
house.
and gang rape her.
Yeah.
And that's what the song's about.
And like
Yeah.
literally the line like, stop your sniveling.
You're going to make some
you're
plastic
gonna make
surgeon
some
a
plastic
rich man.
surgeon a rich man was actually something that one of them said to
Right.
her about like if you keep, which is like so.
But you
Like,
know,
It's heinous. It's horrible.
I mean, it's heinous, it's horrible, but like.
but the sad thing is, if that's not sad enough, in her biography, she blames herself.
I want to read that biography.
Really? Did you
yeah.
read that? Is
And
it
it's
called
like,
like?
no.
Is it called like
No.
ferocious or is it called ferocious or
I,
something like
I
that?
can't remember
'Cause
the,
I've
the
read-
title.
I read
but
something about that.
I want to say something about that because I work with survivors of.
This is also an
Sexual
amazing therapist.
trauma.
I think I mentioned earlier. Yeah.
And for her to go, I take 100%
horrible.
responsibility. I'm like, no.
No, you
Right.
poor thing. It's
No.
terrible.
Rule number one.
Don't
Not
do
at
that.
all.
And
It's heartbreaking.
I think
anyway.
it's-
You
it,
look at
it really
yeah.
is. I mean, it's sad either way.
Because
It's like,
you know,
"Oh, what
someone
did
like
you
this
do?"
might have been advised what you're saying, and they said, "No, you don't get it." Me releasing that and writing it down made me feel better. Like somehow you convince yourself. Like it's no one knows. No one knows until they're that person.
But you know, she's such an unapologetic person.
That's the
She
best thing
just
about it.
Says what she feels and
Right.
thinks. But it was like when I read that, I was like, don't
yeah.
do that.
But the thing is you want to know something? It kind of goes with how the songs are. So she's like, I'm a stream of consciousness person.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling what I wrote it, and that's it. And I can never change it, and that's it. So it's like the
Yeah.
songs, the stories, you know, the autobiography.
It's just being
you know.
honest with herself in the sense that, like, I know this is not right, or like, I think this is probably not the best way to look at it, but this
Right.
is psychologically, this is how.
But I'm
sort
with
of
Diane
came,
on that.
but-
I
She
agree.
totally
It's like,
blamed herself by how she dressed, and that's the fact that she went to the party. I'm like, no.
No way.
Right.
Tell them to
it's-
gang rape you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
So
but
anyway,
that
but that's
song
who
is
she
that
is,
song
though.
is so is such a tough, awesome
Oh, it's an
little
amazing
story that
song.
like that. It's we're 7 minutes talking about it. Like it's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, and it's just, I mean, just musically, the time changes and everything. It's like you're in that chaos with her, you know?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Ooh.
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a favorite song on the record.
Yeah, because I do want to talk about favorite.
It is
It's
honestly,
Mystery Achievement, you already said.
well, it depends on my mood,
Yeah.
Of course, 'cause that's a great record.
right?
Yep.
Precious.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
We haven't talked about Kid, but it's between Precious and Lovers of Today. I love
Lovers of Today is my favorite.
Lovers
Lovers
of
of Today is my
Today.
favorite, and to be honest
Such
with
a
you,
beautiful.
even though the first side is a banger, like Grand Slams,
Yeah.
the second side is kind of my favorite because it's like the beautiful, sad melancholy
Yeah.
that I love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's sequenced very interestingly.
It almost doesn't
in
make
that
sense.
sense. You know, I'm gonna say it's really funny, but I really love the phone call.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
just
That's
a-
awesome, though.
as such a great like interlude. It's such a great second song because
It
it's
is.
just kind of like
It's
it's almost like a
It's like a skit or
like the
something, yeah.
skits on hip hop albums. It's like her version of it, where it's just like you got this thing,
I don't
It's like a
know.
spy
and
message.
the
It's a
sort
great
of the
song.
time signature and all the
Yeah,
like the
I agree-
cool.
I agree with that.
I love
the
songs about
least-
phones, like where people are talking about on
Yeah.
I love
phones.
that song, hanging,
Like
on, hanging on the
I
telephone
love
by
it
the
too.
nerves.
Just
Yeah.
think about
Right?
just Big Bopper and
Incredible.
Love
stupid
cover,
like
yes.
The phone
stuff.
call
Okay,
made The
so-
Sopranos. Did you know that?
No, maybe that's
It made
maybe
one
I
of
never
the,
noticed
they
that.
used the phone call in a Sopranos episode.
That's
Really?
awesome.
And they used it perfectly.
I have to say,
We're so grateful.
I
that
was
you-
really, I was actually really. I mean, I knew that you'd pick something good. I knew you'd pick something good.
Yeah.
But I hadn't listened to this start to finish. I knew the hits.
Yes.
But like after listening to start to finish, not only am I like so thankful to you that you picked this so that I
Oh,
could
I'm
experience
glad.
it
Oh,
and
I'm
really
so-
dive in.
oh, good.
But also
Yeah.
I do see
Good.
elements of I do hear elements of your
Yeah, it's
singing and
influencing you
songwriting
even. Yeah, it's awesome.
Really?
in like this. I do.
Wow.
I do. Like a lot of it's like
Huh.
not so much the timing, but it's kind of like the delivery.
And the angst.
it's like kind
you-
of like
you-
the
you-
honest.
You have your angst.
Wow.
It's the
I know
honest
you have it, you
passion.
know.
Like it's the delivery.
It's in your
that I-
DNA, I would say, because you
Yeah.
probably have
I lived
You
and
have-
breathed this
From
album
a-
for
from-
years.
from a really young age.
subconsciously you're it's
the things
it's
that
part
you
of
love
your
affect you, and you know,
Yeah,
and you spend
yeah.
time with someone who, or something that you think you've actually got to know, and you listen to it. Trust me, it's going to creep into your own songs, which is beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very true, right?
I
We're
love it.
sponges.
Yep.
I'm stoked. I'm so excited to hear your next record. Please share it with us
I
when this airs. We
will.
will. We certainly will share it with our viewers.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be called Old Goats.
Yes.
Coming out in January. But
Excellent.
we will link it
Awesome.
in the notes.
And thank you to Chrissie, Hynde and Company, and
yes.
the Pretenders. And again, I'm so glad that it affected this amazing young person in Chicago a long time ago. Like it's not that long ago. What am I talking about?
Oh, it's a long time
you know,
ago.
so long
We're
ago.
not talking about our ages on
beginning
the
of
show.
it.
But
No.
but
Young
I'm
at
so
heart.
glad, and it really
Just the other day.
It's so magical because, like,
Yeah.
because this is so fun to talk about.
I couldn't wait to talk about this album with you all because it's
I'm
just,
so happy we got to.
Thanks for bringing it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you, Chrissie.
Cheers.
And thank you
Cheers.
guys. As the sun
Cheers.
goes down, we
It's
love
in the
y'all.
dark.
We love
Cheers.
y'all. We'll see you soon.
Fireflies.
That's good
Wave
luck.
goodbye to Chrissy.